Okay, righty-ho, here we go, everybody. This is the next video in this little series about setting up your Twitch or streaming microphone in as good a way as possible. Because in this video, we're just going to be setting up the filters, which you might think, oh, that's all I need to know. But you will want to tweak them yourself, and so the information in the previous videos might help you understand some of the effects, especially compression as well. Right then, so is there any way of moving the audio mixer so it's like this way? There is, but that's still like that. It's a bit annoying. Because I would prefer that to be a bit longer on the bar. Can we undock it? So if we stick this so that the signal is like this. I guess that's kind of okay. What about up there? Oh, perfect. Now I feel like I'm in some pretty cool studio setup. Right, so we're always going to be having a look at every now and again at what's happening up here on this bar. Right, so that's set up like that. We're good to go. Right, so the first thing is we're going to want a VST2 plugin, and this one, we'll give it a name. We'll call it Low Cut. Go to your VST2 plugins list, and if you've got those two other previous things installed from the previous videos, which you should watch first, you'll know that you have all these installed. We're looking for Rare EQ Standalone, which is here. Open the plugin interface. Now, you can see from my voice that it's pretty bassy, which is normal for a male voice, but there's also a lot of sound down here. I have a fan on in the background. Is it appearing on the monitor at the top? Right, so let me just turn up the fan so that it's... There we go. Right, there we are. If you're listening to this on your desktop speakers, unless they're really good and you can hear this wind sound... I would advise putting headphones on for the sake of being able to hear the distinction. And just replaying that section. Right, so you're streaming away in the day. It's really hot, so you've got the fan on. So what we're going to do, as you can hear, we've got this background fan noise here. Now, this step is important even if you don't have a fan on. It's something that's used a lot in the professional voice recording industry. What we're going to do is we're going to change number one. Make sure you've got this number one selected and change it to be a high pass. Now it's basically anything. This is the level of sound. So the high frequency sound is up here, the mid frequency sound is here. It's like a graphic equalizer, and this is the low stuff, the bassy stuff. So if I move this up, what you'll hear is that my voice starts to sound like it's on maybe on a TV, and then maybe on a telephone, and then maybe coming out of a tiny little speaker somewhere. We're just cutting away certain sections of the sound. For instance, in this one, we're cutting away the bass of the sound. But listen. Oh, yeah, we can just turn it off. Listen to, as I click the Enable button, the difference regarding the wind and the background fan noise, because this is quite important. Have a listen. So, hopefully, if you've listened to that distinction, you can hear the difference. If you can't hear the difference, then just go back and replay that and look at what this top little bar is doing and the difference. Now, if you're like me and you're a male with a pretty deep voice, the settings that I've found that work is probably set the frequency of this to be around about 89 or 90, 93.9. That'll do. The bandwidth I'm going to change to be like this. So just at the bottom end of the range, it starts to add a little bit of a boost. Not too much boost though, or it'll start to sound a bit weird. Right, just a little boost like that is all you need. You can also just disable all these if you wanted to as well. But also, a good thing that's often done by people in the recording industry to make sure that their sound is as normal as possible, if we just stick this up for a second, let's go ahead with this and change the bandwidth to be really small, and it's a band filter in case you don't have that. You might want to go through and listen. You can do this by setting your thingy, advanced audio properties, and changing it to monitor and output. but it's also gonna make it a little bit hard to talk, so I might sound a little slurred. Open the interface. Right, now a good thing that people do is just scan slowly up to see if there's any frequency. Oh, if there's any frequency which causes a lot of, like, when you listen to it, you think, ow, that's crazy. Like a really resonant frequency within your voice, which you might have or you might not. Oh, what's this here? What's this? Oh, I'm very resonant right here. So we got a problem around here. So when you've zoomed in on this and you've found a little frequency band that your particular voice has an issue with, what you do is you then, instead of enhancing that, take away just a little like that. So it's gone a little bit. And that can really smooth out your voice. But I've got to turn this off now because it's doing my head in, listening to my own voice as I'm trying to talk. Wait a second. You might have multiple bands that you feel, oh, that one's a little bit harsh. The higher ones tend to be harsher than the lower end ones. But certain people's voices, around about 500 to 100k, have a little resonant band in as well. So check that out. The next thing to set up is a noise gate. Right, so if you have a quiet environment and don't have a background fan on, like I have now, you can just use the inbuilt noise gate. Now, where you set this depends on where your voice falls, but you can see this meter has these tiny little things on, which is like 10, 15, 20, 25, all the way down to 60. And so basically the noise gate threshold will cut off. If your voice falls below the closed threshold, the inbuilt one will mute the signal, completely mute the signal. So if we stick these up to be really high, what happens is it has to hit this open threshold before it will start doing mic input again. So if you set this too high, it leads to a lot of audio cutting out. And also, you don't want a big gap between these, but you do want a gap of probably at least 5 decibels to help prevent it accidentally hearing some background noise that might be just a bit higher than the rest of the background noise, but which triggers your microphone going on. Now, the settings that I use with my microphone setup normally are 56 and 50, like this. So it's about 6 decibels there. Attack time is 5. That's what I put it as, because the attack time has to be small, because when you start speaking and saying certain words, especially if the first part of that word is an S or something, then that word starts very softly. So you want the attack time low so that the beginning parts of words aren't cut off. What these things do is quite important. The attack time, so the release time is for it being faded, whereas the attack time is it coming in. Right, so the attack time only affects it coming in and opening up, not it closing. That's the release time. Right, now there's a little problem which I'm going to attempt to demonstrate here, but I need to turn my fan up and bring it a bit closer, so bear with me a second. Right. It's more useful with the inbuilt noise gate, this one, if you don't actually have a lot of background noise. Like, for instance, if we turn off all the effects so you get the clear sound, this is the new fan noise. You can probably hear that's quite loud. So if you have a lot of background noise, I would say that from a personal perspective, this is not so good. I'll tell you for why. So I'm going to move these up a little bit to like here. So what you might be hearing now, I want you to listen to this. Right, the sound of the fan is still there in the background. But because the sound is getting muted, that sound is disappearing. But then when I start speaking, this noise gate probably... I didn't even have the effect on. What the hell's wrong with me? Right, so as you can hear, it was silent there, and now that I've started speaking, you can probably hear the fan noise again. If you're speaking not all the time, what's going to happen is there's going to be the sound of that fan fading in and out in the background. And that can be quite annoying. That can be quite annoying to listen to, especially if it's really loud. We're going to use that other one that we downloaded, not the RIA plugins, but that Auburn Sound Renegade, which if you've installed it should be visible in this list if you've watched the previous videos. Right, so let's open this up. Right, so you can see the audio signal. It's its blue little flash on this little shape here. So this is essentially the same thing. Open and close is right here. But with this plugin, if it hits the close, it's not muting any sound below it. It's just reducing its volume by quite a bit. For instance, if I was to move these dots so they were exactly close together, then this background noise here would be more, it would be higher, so it would be more visible. Let's just do that now and see what happens. You see, it's now there and it's become more of a thing. This is almost like there's no compression. You could, if you want to, move this down entirely so it's like that. But what you can probably hear is that some parts of my sound are being cut off. You could then pull this middle lever here down a little bit so that more of your speech is kept and is not lost, hopefully. Or, you know, depending on your situation, you can move. No, that's probably. So this is better if you've got a lot of background noise. I'll tell you for why, because you can then just reduce the sound a little bit of those fans. From there, like that. Well, no, from that, sorry, to that. So the fan noise is almost non-existent there, but you can still hear a lot of that. I'd certainly recommend, you might want to test out the settings of these, you might want to also think about at some point speaking really quietly as though you're playing a horror game or you're doing something quiet, or you're just really chilled out, and just make sure that you can still hear a good sound from that as well. I would say probably about here would be good for that, but normally I'm going to be speaking like that, so I'm going to be mostly up there. Have a play around with these settings to your heart's content. The only thing, to bear in mind is the release time here. You want to make that a long time, like at least 100, well, 50 to 100, we'll go with that. The attack time, you probably want some attack time so it's not skitting in and out and going and stuttering. And basically that's it. I think hopefully you understand the noise gates right now. So we'll save we'll rename this and give it Noisy. You can even have both. If you're moving around a lot and sometimes you're going to have noise, why not have this set up right now? Noisy noise gate. Noisy noise gate. Right, okay. So that's those bare things. Now we need to move on to the compression. I just need to stop the video a minute and just speak to someone very quickly. So just bear with me a second. How do I... oh yeah, I have to move this.